Hello, I'm Timothy Joseph. I'm chairman of the Watts Bar Ecology and Fishery Council. In this short video, I'm going to show you how the state and federal mismanagement is clearly responsible for the advance of the silver carp in the Tennessee River Basin. I'm also going to show you how they can prevent the devastation of the upper 4 lakes. The question is, will they? Right now, the answer is no. Let's look at the data. In this slide, you can see the silver carp distribution in the United States. You can see that they have taken over the Ohio, the Missouri, the Mississippi, and the Tennessee River Basins. What we're talking about today is that circle. This is the uninvaded Tennessee River system. It's those lakes that still do not have the silver carp. There are over 50 electric barriers in the United States. You can see a photo of some of them here. The TWRA's mismanagement started a long time ago, more than 25 years ago. They knew they had taken over the Missouri, Mississippi, Ohio. They knew they were coming, and they didn't do anything about it. And even today, TWRA will not consider electric barriers, only the bioacoustic fish fence. Let's look at TWRA's mission statement. It says, protect and enhance the fish and wildlife of the state and their habitats. What does protect mean? The definition of protect is prevent harm or injury, not postpone it. TWRA barrier plan starts at the highly infested Kentucky Lake. You can see that in the star. They're doing it to reduce recruitment. That only means reduce the number of fish that get into highly infested Kentucky Lake. History proves that reducing recruitment will not protect the upper basin. Blocking them is the only way to save those lakes. The mismanagement is because TWRA has adopted the USGS plan. That plan addresses only reducing recruitment and removal. It ignores preventing the spread into uninvaded waters. It focuses on the greatest population level and ignores the lowest. It ranks uninvaded waters as do nothing. This defies all the guidance, the experts, even TWRA's own mission. TWRA refuses to prioritize the barrier placement to prevent the spread. Priority must be the uninvaded ecosystems, but theirs is do nothing. Let's look at the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service guidance. This was a 2007 working group of over 30 professionals. Goal number 1, prevent introduction of silver carp in the United States. Goal number 2, contain and control the expansion and prevent their spread. Let's look at MICRA, the Asian Carp Advisory Committee, a 40-member panel. Let's look at their goal. Goal number 1, prevent the introduction and further spread of Asian carp. They go on to say, the most cost-effective management approach is preventing the introduction. Prevention efforts are more viable than attempting to manage and control a species that has already been introduced. They are saying that don't try to control a species that is already in the lake, which is what TWRA is trying to do. Dr. Peter Sorensen is our nation's leading silver carp expert and modeler. He says, and I quote, models show that pairing dams, that only means 2 barriers in 2 locks adjacent to each other, will block 99% of all the carp. Another excellent, more conservative scenario would be to place a deterrent at Watts Bar, well above nearly all the documented carp captures. This is almost certain to succeed. Then work one's way downstream. We must be conservative. The silver carp will soon enter the upper Tennessee River Basin. Jerry Rasmussen is our nation's leading silver carp expert. He's got 45 years of experience. He was the MICRA coordinator for 18 years. He says, and I quote, placing a barrier in already infested downstream river reaches is clearly a waste of resources when prevention of upstream spread is the goal. He says, The best course of action is to construct the first barrier at Watts Bar in front of the invasion, then continue downstream to Chickamauga and below. He goes on and says, blockage of upstream movement is the only sound ecological option available to keep the upper Tennessee River Basin Asian carp free. Let's look at the silver carp abundance over time. You can see the lakes listed at the lower part of that diagram, from Kentucky all the way up to Tellico. And you can see the upper basin in the photo at the upper right. As time progresses, the silver carp population increases in all of the lakes. You can see that in Kentucky, Pickwick, and Wilson, there are a lot of silver carp. In fact, in Kentucky Lake, they removed 16 million pounds last year. There's a thing called tipping point, where if below the tipping point, that means the population is very low, you can still control the silver carp. However, when it passes that tipping point, control is impossible. So as time moves on, the red lines, you can see that every lake will pass the tipping point. If we look now at the barrier priority for TWRA is advocating, they want to start at the highly infested lakes and move upstream to Pickwick, Wilson on, the last being Watts Bar. If you want to protect the upper basin, you need to reverse that. You start at Watts Bar with paired barriers, and you can see that this will protect that entire region of the upper basin. We must put the barriers in front of the carp, not behind them. That will save the upper basin. The TWRA advocates starting at Kentucky Lake. This will accomplish only stair-stepping the silver carp upstream and guarantee devastation of the entire Tennessee River Basin. The barriers must be placed above the carp. If they are, there is an excellent, and it's the only chance to save the upper lakes. If they start with paired lakes at Watts Bar and Chickamauga, they can save 4 beautiful lakes. If they triple them and add Nickajack and then Guntersville, there still is a chance we can save Guntersville up. That's 5 lakes. TWRA is using speculation. They are not using science or facts. They want to put barriers behind the silver carp. TWRA says, and I quote, reducing recruitment will protect the upper basin. This is speculation. There is no science behind it. It defies silver carp history. It defies the guidance from our federal government, and it defies our nation's experts. If you put the barriers above the carp, this agrees with silver carp history. It's sound science. It follows our nation's experts and the federal guidance. This is reckless incompetence on the part of TWRA. There is 0 chance of saving the upper basin, whereas there is an excellent chance of saving the upper basin lakes, 4 to 6 lakes, by putting the barriers in front of the carp. Real quick on the economic loss by county. From Chickamauga upstream, there are 5 lakes and 9 counties. That is a $2.6 billion lake economy. That's annually. If you reduce that by 50%, which is what happens, has already happened at Land Between the Lakes, it will result in a more than $1 billion annual loss. If you look at the loss by county, you can see what each of those counties indeed are going to lose. And that is only if there is a 50% downturn, which will only increase as the population increases. There are numerous ways to pay for this. I won't go over all of them. I'm just going to talk about one. If you look at the waterfront property owner tax, there's the counties listed for the lakes. If you place an invasive species tax of $200 a year on 21,000 homeowners, that's $4.25 million a year. The payback is fast. You can pay back the barriers and then maintain the cost. Which legacy is TWRA going to use? Right now, it's continued mismanagement. They want to put the barriers behind the silver carp. Their legacy is going to be silver carp devastation throughout the entire Tennessee River Basin. However, their legacy could be barriers in front of the silver carp, and that would be a legacy of preventing economic and ecological devastation of the upper Tennessee River Basin. Right now, it's reckless incompetence. TWRA wants to put the barriers behind the silver carp. When they get here, it is a guaranteed threat of injury and possible death. That woman's name is Jody Barnes. She was hit in the head by that silver carp. It broke her jaw. It also broke the jaw of Seth Russell. They have broken jaws, noses, ribs, arms, and legs, and have cracked skulls. This is two of my grandchildren pulling on Watts Bar this summer. If those silver carp get here, there's no way anyone would pull their grandkids. They could easily break a child's neck. Those fish are deadly. When that happens, who's to blame? Right now, TWRA's first priority is put them in back of the carp. They must change that to put the barriers in front of the silver carp. This will prevent a $1 billion annual economic downturn. It'll maintain a natural ecosystem stability, biodiversity, and a healthy fishery. We must keep the upper basin silver carp free. You have seen clearly how the TWRA can save the 4 lakes in the upper Tennessee River Basin. They must follow the science, the guidance from our agencies, the recommendations of the nation's experts, and the silver carp history. The WBEFC is doing all it can to get them to do this. Thank you very much for listening.